What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another very special Burnout Brighter post-show podcast, talking
Woo
all about
woo.
E3 and Summer Game Fest. We have so much going on this weekend and post-shows for every major show, so keep it locked. We're going to be talking about the Guerrilla Collective Day 2 live stream today, where we saw a whole bunch of amazing-looking indie games. This was Day 2, so if you missed Day 1, make sure you go catch up on it, or go watch our post-show where we talked about a bunch of our favorite games from Day 1. But Destiny, today we're going to be talking all about Day 2. So I wanted to ask you, before we get into the games too deep, what were some of your overall impressions of the show as a whole?
I think they did an amazing job. Like honestly, like the pacing was great. There was enough time to get a feel of each of the games that they showcased. How like the mechanics of the gameplay, some of the scenery, the characters, a little bit of the story to get you really like pulled in.
Mm-hmm.
I think I wish listed like probably over 70% of the games that I saw on the Guerrilla Collective this time. And I think just the flow of it was so nice. Like the first time we saw the show, it seemed to like drag just a tiny bit,
Mm-hmm.
but like you said when we were talking earlier, it just like flew by. Like the time just flew by,
Yeah.
and I didn't even realize we were at the end of the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think they did a great job, and all of the games. Like I've been saying this before, but all of the games look so well done.
Yeah.
Like it's really hard to believe that like they're coming from these small developers, these small indie games. Like they're stepping up. They're competing with like these
Triple A.
main
Yeah.
companies and AAA games, and they're doing an amazing job because the stuff that's coming out is looking great.
Yeah, I'm really, really pleasantly surprised. Well, surprised isn't the right word, but I had a blast watching Day 2. I was shocked that the 90 minutes went by that quickly because like it just went by and there was so much amazing content. Like I swear it was almost every game where you're like, oh, this looks awesome, or oh, what about
Yeah.
this? And we had Darren watching with us, but unfortunately, Darren ran into some technical issues, so he won't be on the post show. But we are still going to highlight some of the games that he was excited about. So, what we're going to do, Destiny, let's get right into it. Let's jump into some of the games that we thought were fun and exciting. And let's start with you. Can you tell me about one of the games that made you excited?
So one of the games that I really liked that I thought was absolutely cool was Akatori.
Hmm.
I always get very excited when they use a female protagonist and it's a person of color, and that's exactly what this game has. The art style looks so amazing. Like the color palette is great. It's vibrant, and I just like the fighting style. Like
Hmm.
you are whooping some ass as you're going through this game. So I definitely wish listed that one, and that was my first pick. What
Yeah,
about
I
you?
really I really like the look of that game as well. The bow staff looks awesome. Like the combat looks fast and fluid. The pixel art style I think really fits the game very very well. And that was one of the earliest games that we saw, but that one I know jumped out to both of us. But my first pick for the game that one of the games that I really liked was Demon Turf. And this is like you're a demon character, a girl, and it's a platformer. It looks like a really kind of like retro style thing, but like the art style looks super super interesting because the character almost looks 2D in like this 3D open, not open world, but open platforming environment. And it looks awesome. Like they had a bunch of moments where like I like kind of platforming games, like almost like Super Mario style, that you can kind of break the levels. Like if you can kind of find a faster way to do something, the game lets you do that. You're not like landlocked into only taking one path. The game looks really really open. The music was so cool. Like
Yeah.
that was one of the things that immediately jumped out at me. We know that it's coming to pretty much like every major platform, so Demon Turf was something that I was really excited about. The art style looks great, and you have to take on the Demon King. I'm excited to get my hands on that. Did you have any thoughts about Demon Turf?
I think I'm not usually a platformer type person, but I like the idea that like you can find different answers to like the idea of finding different answers to one question. So basically
Mm-hmm.
finding different pathways to figure out how to get certain places. And I like that because that means that like I don't get stuck trying to figure out one way to get through it. I
Yeah.
also really liked the environment, like you said, and the difference between the actual character and the environment. The environments were in 3D, and obviously the character was like a sprite kind of 2D form. And I liked
Mm-hmm.
when they like I definitely like the idea of melding those two things together, especially when they look as cohesive as they did in this game. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. What was your second game?
My second game was Arietta of Spirits, which is
Yes.
about Ghost and Girls. And guys, I'm sorry. It's just if there's a game with a female in it, I want to play it. So it really reminded me of kind of like Zelda. And
Yep.
Zelda A Link to the Past is one of my favorite games ever. I recently picked up Celeste, which has been out for a while because I like those types of games. And this really is like a meld of those two, like two of those like nostalgic kind of feel good adventure style RPG games that like I absolutely adore. So I definitely put that on my wish list as well.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be coming this summer. There's already a demo available, so you can go check the game out. But I agree. I think like the art style looks cool. The I really got like old school Zelda vibes as well. I think that game looks like a lot of fun, so I'm excited to try the demo. As for my second game, Wolf Stride almost took me in immediately. Like it's like this black and white, very cartoony art style. It almost looked like an anime where it's like a mech fighting game. I'm a little unclear about how the turn-based battle system works because it looks almost like there was like this row of card-shaped spots beneath that I can't really tell if it's like if you have to if that's like your movement spaces or how the combat really works, but like it does look like this like tactical turn based, but like the presentation of it was so incredible. It caught me right away, and even though I don't really know exactly how the game plays, there's something about it that grabbed me, and I'm so curious to look into it and to learn more about it because it looks phenomenal. And like if it is like a card based system, I'm all about that. I love kind of card building games like that. And if it isn't, if there's a little bit more kind of built into something of a unique combat style that I don't think we've seen before, I'm even more curious. So Wolf Stride just looks fantastic. Did you have any feelings about Wolf Stride?
It definitely gave me that like old school kind of mech anime feel because that's
Hmm.
what the art style is. It was very clean. Like the art style was very clean, nice and crisp. And other than that, like I don't like card games. I'm really bad at them. So I'm not really like again, I couldn't really tell what the fighting style in this was. If it's a card game, I probably won't play it, but
Hmm.
if it's not a card game, I'm definitely willing to check it out and see what the basically battle link system really is.
Yeah, I think it looks really interesting. What was your next game, D?
White Shadows.
Yeah.
That game looked amazing. Like I know I've complained before about things having a lack of color, and this game is all in black and white, kind of like
Hmm.
shadows and light. But the thing is that the style is really gorgeous. It's like so unique looking. It
Hmm.
reminds me of like watching a puppeteer with a shadowing box, something like
Yeah.
that. And it looks like old school cinematics from like the 30s, the 20s and the 30s.
Hmm.
I do know it's like a platformer game, and I used to play platformers a long time ago when like they were super popular. So I'm excited to try this out. It's I think it's Matt. You put something down, and I think it's absolutely perfect. It is literally like Tim Burton having a baby.
Yeah.
It is very
The
Tim Burton esque, and I love
yeah,
it.
the way that the developers described it was like Tim Burton having this like weird baby in like 1984, and I think that I wrote that quote down because I think it captured it perfectly.
Yeah, it does.
I think that game looks really interesting too. Like the like almost like old school doctor, like bird faced doctor mask that the main character was having. And like you said, the black and white art style looks like super good in it. I'm really curious to see more from it because they described it like a modern fable. So it seems like they're really kind of giving it this like fairy tale esque dark kind of
Yeah,
vibe. Like I think it's a
yeah.
really interesting way to take the game. As for myself, my next game, obviously, Venice 2089 had me hooked as soon as it came. The art style looks great. There's a female main character, and she looks awesome. Her design is so interesting. The kind of idea of the game is that it's future in Venice, but like climate change has kind of caused Venice to flood a great deal. So part of the mechanics looked like to be like you're hoverboarding around these areas, kind of almost like Tony Hawk style doing tricks. But they also had a lot of like conversation options from what I could tell, and like the character designs for the other characters looked really interesting. I don't really know to what extent the if the hoverboarding is the main mechanic or if that's just traversal, but the whole vibe of that game, especially dealing with this whole dealing with climate change and the hoverboarding and a dope ass looking female main character sold me on this game. And the animation looks beautiful too. It looks like super cartoony, and I'm all about it. What about you, D? Did you have any thoughts about Venice?
I think it's amazing that they're actually talking about global warming. I don't know many games that are actually like taking a stance against that. And the thing is that Venice is doomed to sink. So the fact that they're like focusing on that aspect of it and bringing in the fact that global warming is going to cause it is like a huge message that they're trying to send. They're very environmental conscious.
Mhm.
I love the music to the game, and I think
Yeah.
it just overall has a very chill vibe. It's like you have to like talk to people, see what the story is, see what's going on. There's no like main enemy that I've seen so far, other than like just what's going on with
Mhm.
the environment and society. So I'd be interested in seeing more of it.
I'm really curious too. So, D, we picked one more kind of main game each next before we kind of get into our shout outs. What was your last game that really, really grabbed you?
Kitsune Tales.
Yeah.
All right, so that game, guys, I got all the nostalgic feels from that. Like from like when I used to like couch co-op with my little brother and playing Pocky and Rocky and all that kind of stuff, playing Super Mario. It's kind of like it does have kind of like a Super Mario style like platformer kind of feel. You have these special powers and you're trying to save your girlfriend. And I think
Hmm.
one of the cutest things is that you do get to turn into a fox. And that definitely reminds me of when you would play Super Mario and you would get the little special elements and you turn into the little raccoon and all of that kind of stuff. So it was definitely like an ode like back to the old game. So I wish listed this obviously like immediately just because of like the nostalgia it brings. But I do think they're doing some great things with the game. The color palette is great. It's vibrant, colorful, and the character design is really, really cute.
Yeah, the game grabbed me as well. Like you said, the kind of old school Mario vibe, the different kind of power ups that you'll seemingly be able to get. Like I think at one point the character turned into like a snowman, turned into a fox, like very much like old school Mario kind of power sets, which looks really cool. As for my last game, the one that kind of had me very, very interested was No Longer Home, which they had the developers on during that segment talking about how the game is about a character named Bo, and they had just graduated university, and they're kind of trying to figure out what's going on next in their life. Which the developer said that's kind of where the story of the game came about was their own stories and how a lot of the characters are based on their friends or people that they know. So it looks really, really interesting. There were like monsters in certain segments, like that the character looks like it was talking to. It has like all these branching conversational paths that I'm assuming will let you kind of dictate where the story goes. I think visually it looks really interesting. It had this like Kentucky Route Zero meets Goose Game vibe. Like it's kind of a melding of these kind of two art styles, and I think it looks really, really interesting. It definitely is the most like story esque. This is you're playing this because of the narrative out of the games that we saw there that interested me. But I thought it looked really cool. Did you have any thoughts on No Longer Home?
I think the fact that like they're focusing on something that like everybody's experienced at some point in their life, finishing something, whether it be high school or college, and just not really knowing what the next step is,
Hmm.
I think you could really like just vibe with that. The music was great in it, and like you said, the monsters, I felt like just from looking at it were like different aspects of emotional feelings that they may be going through. So this
Hmm.
may be like a really emotional game, or it could be the type of game that just helps you feel like you're not alone with those
Yep.
feelings. So I am excited to play that. I did actually wish list it. I think I wish listed it. If I didn't, I'm going to do it immediately.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know what
I
else to say. Like it just all of these games that we've talked about so far, and even the ones we haven't mentioned, have all been
mhm.
just like really amazing, and I've just been excited to get my hands on personally.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited to see a lot more from a lot of these games because, like we said, even the games that we didn't mention, there were so many games. There were so many awesome games. So let's do very, very quickly throw out some shout outs. Severed Steel grabbed me as well. It's like this FPS parkour type game where like it's all about fast movements and like they were showing all these different ways to kind of get to the levels. I thought it looked really, really visually interesting. D, I know Sable kind of did something more for you this time. Tell me quickly about why that trailer grabbed you more than the previous one we saw.
So we saw it before and it just looked really bland. But this time they really went in depth. Like you got to see some of the environment, the way they designed it. It was a lot more colorful. It just looked more like a completed game compared
Hmm.
to what we saw in the Summerfest trailer. So
Yeah.
just based on this one alone, I was way more interested in checking out the game. So good job to the Guerrilla Collective for like throwing that out there.
Darren wasn't able to join us due to some internet problems, but we do have him beaming in to give us a quick rundown of what from some of his favorite games were. So let's throw to Darren.
The first game that they showed off that really, really piqued my attention, I just could not stop thinking about it, was a game called Grime. Now, from the trailer, it was a purely cinematic thing. It was some kind of weird, demonic, geological sex thing. I don't know. Apparently, that's something that interests me. So I dug a little deeper and I looked up some trailers from 2020. Turns out it's an action RPG side scrolling game. It is just like ethereally beautiful, just otherworldly, alien, creepy, just fantastic art from that game. I have already wishlisted it. If you like surreal, kind of very evocative imagery in your games, check out Grime. Super, super cool looking game. My number two game that stood out to me was called Unmetal. Now, this game is very easy to describe. It is essentially a parody of Metal Gear Solid. It's Metal Gear Solid meets MacGyver, but not the modern Metal Gear Solid. It's actually closer to the original Metal Gear games on the MSX, I think was the console it originally released on. So like top-down stealth games. So funny. Oh my god. There's this one scene where like you kick a can and a cat comes out and the guard's like, "Who's there?" And just hears like the cat go meow. And then the main character Jesse kicks the can again and the guard said, "Who's there?" And Jesse goes, "It's another cat." So that's the kind of humor that you're looking forward to. The gameplay looked really fun. Super great stealth action, kind of like trying to find what's in your surroundings to help you through. There's where the MacGyver aspect comes out. I'm definitely going to be checking out Unmetal, and I think you should too. And then the last game is maybe a much more niche thing. It's called Potion Craft. It's basically an alchemy simulator. If you've ever wanted to know what it's like to be a potions master in Harry Potter, or you just super like the whole medieval, like Merlin style alchemy potions aesthetic, this game looks super cool. Very like hand drawn, medieval style art style. Lots of different ingredients to make your potions. You're interacting with all your different alchemy kits. I don't know why I want an alchemy game so much, but as soon as I saw it, it's one of these things where like I didn't even know that I wanted it until I saw it. There's even like a haggling system. It looks really, really cool. Potion Craft really looks to scratch that puzzle potions simulator itch that I know everyone has been wanting to tap into. So those are my three games that I'm super interested in. A couple honorable mentions really quick. The Light of Darkness. It's like an angel spawn looking thing. Very 2.5D, very striking imagery again. Highly recommend checking out The Light of the Darkness. And last one, Fire Girl Hack and Splash Rescue. Really cool art style, 2D sprites in a 3D world. You play a firefighter, but it's like very Super Mario Sunshine, where you're like hovering on your fire hose, putting out fires, stopping burning buildings, and rescuing and rebuilding the people that are inside. All right? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Darren, for talking to us about the games that you liked. I know you're stoked about them, and even the ones that had my kind of head scratching. I saw there was a couple of them that I was like, "This is a Darren game."
Darren
Thank you for telling a Darren ass game. So thank you, Darren, for telling us. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. This has been our post show for the Guerrilla Collective 2 Day 2. We have, like I said, we have part 1 underneath, so make sure you go check it out. We are going to have another post show for the Wholesome Direct, because that ended up being so many amazing games.
Get ready for that.
We're going to have our own episode for that. We're going to have a Ubisoft post show later up today as well. We're going to have a Devolver one coming. We have much more coming over the next couple of days, so keep it locked. What did you think from Guerrilla Collective? What games jumped out at you? So tell us in the comments below, and make sure you let us know. So hit that like, subscribe, share. For Destiny and myself, for Darren, for Team Burnout, we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.
Burnout out.